just like to welcome everybody. We have, this is the first one we've done tonight. It's the first meeting we've had for all the different departments in Guiding Australia. As we know, we've run a few different ones for operations, and they've been well attended. And tonight we've got 103 registrations, and we have now 60 plus people and climbing online. So we're doing really well there. I will bring up the slides for the agenda and start the meeting. The meeting is recorded, and we can't stop that from happening. If anybody doesn't want to participate in being recorded at the meeting, you're welcome to leave. Your video is not turned on and your audio is not turned on. If you want to ask a question or something like that, you can go into the chat or the Q&A that should be available on the top of your button. I'll be monitoring that as our executives are presenting, and at the end of the presentations, I will go through the questions and answers with each of the leaders. So thank you very much. Here we go. So that's the beginning of our presentation there. I'll just set that to hopefully show slideshow. Yep, which it is. So welcome to the All Members meeting on Wednesday, the 10th of September, 2025. Our agenda tonight is we'll do our welcome and I'll introduce our presenters. We will go through airworthiness, and that will take 20 minutes. We'll then do operations. Similarly, 20 minutes for that. Safety management, soaring development, and at the end of that, we'll have our questions and Q&A and any chat that comes from that. So with that, I'll just introduce and you'll see that on the screen here. Our presenters tonight are David Villiers, who's going to start first, and he's the chairman of Airworthiness panel. And I'm sure David will tell you more about that as we go forward. Our next presenter is going to be Aaron Stroop. He's the chairman of Operations panel. After that is Drew McKinnie. He's our safety manager for Guiding Australia. And welcome Mike. Mike Durrant is the Soaring and Development Manager for Victoria and Tasmania. And he's stepping in for Craig Final, who is the chairman of Soaring and Development panel. So that's our presenters for tonight. And I will now hand the meeting over to David, and you should be able to share your slides with the meeting.
Okay, can everybody see that?
No.
I've got it on my screen, but obviously I'm not doing it right somehow.
So go to your share button on the top right-hand corner, and it should bring up a panel that shows you the screens that you're going to share. Then you have to say share.
It's given me a share web, a PowerPoint presentation, had a name or an email group.
Okay, so how about I share the slides for you and you can talk over the top?
How about that? Sounds good to me.
Okay, let me just get out of this one over in my screen here and go back to yours. Nothing like a good fallback plan. Yep, share from there.
B, C, D, and E.
There we go. Can everybody see the airworthiness slides here at the moment? Yes?
Okay. I can see it.
Okay, I'll just make that into a presentation for you and I'll step down for you.
Beauty.
There we go. All yours, David. Tell me what to do.
Okay. Well, evening, folks. My name is Dave Villiers. I'm the chair of the Airworthiness panel. which is made up of your regional managers' airworthiness. There are 10 of them, there's 2 in each region, plus the manager airworthiness, executive manager airworthiness, Dennis, who's cooked today. He's having a day off, so he's probably not online with us. All except Dennis are volunteers, and that means these guys often have jobs of their own, and they try very hard to meet our requirements as well as those of their family and the like. So find your local RMA, there's one in each area, and get to know them. These blokes are a valuable resource for you, and they can help you with a lot of the stuff that you need to know and that you need to do, and they can answer many of your questions, whether they be about the organisation itself or a technical issue with your aircraft or a Form 2 or whatever that's going on. Okay, next slide, please. Tonight I want to talk about the Form 2 report, which is the third page of the paperwork you get with your annual inspection stuff. I want to talk about some stuff about daily inspections. I want to talk a little bit about some manual updates which are going on. And finally, I'd like to talk a little about the airworthiness syllabuses or syllabi, depending on which version of the dictionary you use, that are going on at present. So moving on, next slide, please. The Form 2 report that you see on the screen there on the left, that's a copy of mine, which I'm currently filling in. It has a number of purposes, and one of them, and the one that most people think about, is it lets Gliding Australia know the annual inspection has been completed and who did it. That's important to us because we need to occasionally know who's doing what inspections, how many people are doing more than one year, how many people are doing multiple ones a year, and all those people who really are inactive in the system. And so this gives us one way of finding that out. It also gathers information which we use to administer airworthiness, like the box in the middle there with the questions, and the bit below it that has all the changes in weight and balance. But one of the other purposes, or two of the other purposes we have out of this form, is that it collects data that we are required to report to both CASA and BITRE. For the uninitiated, that is the Bureau of Infrastructure, Transport and Regional, BTIRE. Never mind, it's part of the Department of Transport, and it requires us to report information on data for hours and number of flights flown in Australia for everything, and that includes recreational aircraft. Now, a few years ago, we had to report that information individually. We used to get questions who came brought up by generally by the clubs. We had to answer the clubs, and the clubs had to pass that up. And we all had to do that every year. But a few years ago, we got an agreement, and we've changed the system now, that data is collected from the hours and launches in the top box there of the Form 2 report. They should be the same, right? Add up the pilot hours, add up the aircraft hours. If they don't add up, there's something seriously wrong. So the other issue is that CASA is required by regulation. It's actually written in the regs that CASA has to confirm every 3 years that the data they have on the certificate of registration and the registered operator of aircraft is correct. And that's why the next bit down there on the form asks to confirm that the name and address of the registration holder and the name and address of the registered operator are correct. By having this information, we again avoid you being asked individually every 3 years whether the address they have for you, for the registered operator and for the registration holder of your aircraft is correct. So we get this data by the Form 2 report, saves us from having to individually report to government. Unfortunately, there is a number of aircraft every year, and I must admit I've been one once or twice, that has forgotten to return the Form 2 report back to Gliding Australia. Now, when you send that report back, the ladies in the office keep a record of that. They enter it into our databases, and they know who has sent a report back and who hasn't. When you ask for your next Form 2 paperwork, they are required by our processes to check whether or not they have received the last Form 2 report. If they have not, they will not any longer send you Form 2 paperwork until the report for the last one is received. Now, I know that's less than ideal, but we need this data and we need it returned. So we will ask that you return the form every time. And remember, no Form 2 report returned. You won't get your Form 2 for the next time until the last report is returned. Okay, next thing, please, Dave. Okay, let's talk about daily inspections. There's a number of reasons I'm talking about this, but two of them have come out of recent incidents and defect reports that have come through the process in the last 6 months or so. Removable ballast has shown itself to be a problem. We had a case where an aircraft operated by a club was found by a lightweight pilot to be a little difficult, a little more difficult than it needed to be controlled. And when that pilot complained, there was a check made and a considerable mass of ballast was found in the ballast box in the fin of this aircraft. Now, investigation of this revealed that a number of other pilots in the club had found that that aircraft was a bit squirrely to fly. And the removal of the ballast and checking of the system indicated that that ballast was not reflected on the minimum pilot weight requirements in the placard in the cockpit. In other words, the cockpit placard did not account for that extra weight in the tail. There are a number of issues out of this. One of them is that the manual for that aircraft required that the presence of ballast in the ballast box be checked at every daily inspection. There's a hole in the fin where you can check to see if there's ballast. And it appeared nobody had been checking that because this ballast had been installed and remained installed for some time and nobody appeared aware that it was there. We're lucky to get away with the squirrely controls. The people were flying this aircraft below minimum pilot weight. So there is a lesson to be learned there. And one is to, when you do your DI, check that you're doing it in accordance with not only the Gliding Australia manuals, but also the flight manual for the aircraft. The other issue of the fact that the ballast was added at some stage and nothing was made in the cockpit at a club aircraft to indicate that ballast had been installed. The second one I'd like to talk about is control connections. And this one came out of another Jantar aileron connection disconnect. An aircraft was subject to an annual inspection by a couple of very experienced annual inspectors. The aircraft was completed. Inspection was completed. The aircraft was rigged. The independent checks on both the individual control surface connections and the bottom of the second page of the Form 2 were signed as an independent check had been carried out. Somebody did an independent check and a dual control check of the controls. The panel was taped up, the aircraft was flown. It was flown 5 or 6 times before one of the ailerons disconnected. It disconnected because it had never been properly connected in the first place. When the panel was untaped, pulled off and inspected again, they found that the other aileron was hanging by a thread. It also had not been properly connected. This aircraft had gone through a number of daily inspections, and it had gone through an independent inspections with the ailerons improperly connected. Now, JANTARs are well known for this. There have been a number of times over the years where JANTAR, particularly ailerons, have not been properly connected. That is why we do independent connections, and in this case, independent inspections, and in this case, it failed. Independent inspector didn't find it. But more concerning to me is the fact that it got through a number of daily inspections because there seemed to be an attitude, an opinion in certain parts of the community that a taped up inspection panel did not need to be removed for a daily inspection. Inspection panels are installed for a reason. They're there so you can inspect. And if you are doing a daily inspection, you need to check it, particularly the JANTARs, but also for hotelier connections. Hoteliers, as you know, have a number of good functions, but they also have a number of vulnerabilities, and they need to be checked at every daily inspection. As I said, next line there, inspection panels, they're installed for a reason. They're there so you can inspect. But bear in mind, there are some places where you can't inspect. At my own club here 2 weeks ago, an aircraft was rigged, ASK 21MI, and during the independent check, one of the right-hand hoteliers was found disconnected, even though the owner had rigged the aircraft and thought it was connected. So in that case, the independent inspections were, and it was being the right-hand one, it's under the fuel tank, and you cannot get an eye on it. You can only do it by hand. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is independent inspections. Anybody with a daily inspection rating is qualified and authorised to do independent inspections. Independent inspections means just that. They need to be independent. And when Bloggs is asked by Jones to do an inspection and then shown what to look for and how to do it, in my view, that is not independent. The independent check needs to be done by somebody who knows what they're doing and is able to determine whether something is right or wrong by looking at it, not by being told, oh yeah, that's all right, I looked at that, that's fine. So bear that in mind when you are either doing an independent inspection or asking someone to do one for you, that the person who's doing it needs to be truly independent. Finally, there's a section in MOSP 3 in chapter 10.7.3 and 10.7.4, which talks about pilot maintenance. It gives somebody with a DI authorisation the opportunity to do basic pilot maintenance operations. Now, I won't run through those. If you want to look at them, you pull out MOS 3 and have a look. But they allow pilots to do a number of things, and they need to be people need to be trained to do them. One of the items on that list is that a DI, appropriately trained, can refill an oxygen bottle. That terrifies me, because nothing will turn you into heat and light faster than an oxygen leak. So be very wary when you're doing pilot maintenance. If you're doing anything on that list, make sure you have been trained to do it. At present, we have a number of videos on YouTube about daily inspections, but we also do not yet have a syllabus to train daily inspectors to, and that is something that we will be working on very shortly. And that will cover also what needs to be trained for those aspects of pilot maintenance. Okay, moving on. Next one, please, Dave. Okay, Basic sailplane engineering. This is a magnificent book. I'm very, very impressed with it. The guys who wrote this a few years ago have done a marvellous job. It is a really good manual, but it has a couple of minor problems. The biggest one is the fact that Chapter 16 contains regulatory requirements which are also in MOSP 3, Chapter 13, to do with what has to be done and when on releases. Chapter 16, unfortunately, when MOSP 3 was amended, Chapter 16 in BSE was missed. And so BSE needs to be corrected, and that I have the draft of that new chapter of Chapter 16 on my desk, ready to go. There are a number of changes in response to comments from members. One of those was to include the old diagram, which was in the AD, about the different arm lengths on a release, also in Chapter 16. There's a new couple of sections, a couple of chapters, not chapters, chapter of paragraphs on batteries, particularly lithium batteries, and the hazard they represent to us on the ground. And there will also be an update to the electronics chapter, which I'm still waiting to come from the gentleman who drafted that chapter, Chapter 20 originally. Those of you who've taken a close look at BSE will notice that the current chapter order is random. I recently had to do some presentations to an Airworthiness course, and I won the job of doing the structural issues. And I found that they were in a random order. So there's been a proposal made to reorganise BSE into a coherent order, i.e. the chapters covering structural issues all grouped together in one area. For those who are concerned, and I'm one of them, I just looked at my logbook today, Chapter 16 on releases will remain Chapter 16. So any references in your logbook to releases being maintained in accordance with Chapter 16 will remain valid. You won't have to go back and change logbook statements or anything else. The other proposal is to remove two chapters, the wood repair and the fabric repair chapters, and to put that, because they're not used very often and by very few people, and the proposal is to put those into one or more separate manuals. So that is underway. Okay, the next one, please, David. Okay, Airworthiness syllabuses or syllabi. We currently only have one published syllabus. There's a manual, the number of which escapes me, but we have a syllabus manual which contains only the weight and balance syllabus. We have three others close to publication: the replacement of components, the annual inspector, and minor repairs FRP. In looking at that, the Airworthiness panel got to put them together and decided that the difference between what a replacement of components inspector can do and what an annual inspector can do is minimal. If you look at Chapter 10 of MOS 3, a replacement of components inspector can do everything an annual inspector can do, except there are a limited number of items where they need to be overseen by an annual inspector. That means the syllabus for a replacement of components inspector should be basically the same as an annual inspector. And the two new syllabuses will be the same. But for an annual inspector, a higher level of competence will have to be demonstrated. All these syllabuses are based on a competency basis, and we expect a higher level of competency from an annual inspector than we do from replacement of components. That's why your record of experience, Airworthiness experience, is an important document which you should, if you haven't, get hold of one and maintain. The other syllabus we're coming up with is for the minor repairs FRP, and that will come out very shortly. The draft ROC and annual inspector syllabus was trialled at the recent Gliding Queensland course in Warwick. And we have to make a few minor changes. There are a couple of items in there which, while we were asking for competency to be shown, they're not really exercises that we conduct on a very regular basis. For instance, one of the competencies was to remove and replace the carriage. We do that very rarely. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I think I've done it twice. So we have learned from that exercise, and there are one or two competencies which don't often crop up, which need to be reworded to make them achievable, rather than have to do. What I don't want is to people to have to conduct a maintenance operation on an aircraft simply to show competency, rather than because it's required for the airworthiness of the aircraft. That sort of additional maintenance is a recipe for disaster. So we're just adjusting the syllabuses at this stage to make sure that doesn't happen. But those three will be published shortly. So watch this space. Next one, please, David. Okay. GAus has two IT systems which are used by airworthiness staff, Salesforce and Just Go. Salesforce is an expensive system for us, but it's comprehensive. It contains a very large amount of information, particularly for airworthiness, but we have limited licenses because the licenses are expensive. You pay more for an extra license. It contains the vast majority of airworthiness data about aircraft and MA holds, as well as Soaring defect reports. But because of the license issue, we are unable to make that available to everybody. Just Go is the system that Gliding Australia uses, which faces the members. It's more limited in the data it contains and not as easy to use for us, the people who are trying to use it more than just looking after ourselves. It contains the vast majority of information on members, but relies on you to enter and maintain your credentials. Please gain a new credential, enter it in Just Go. Now, those of you who have the little app in a wallet on your phone that contains your credentials and enables you to show what operations credentials you have will be familiar with the system, but it currently does not hold any airworthiness credentials, and I hope to get those in. The problem I see at present is that there's a big difference between the credentials we see in Salesforce and the credentials we see in Just Go, and that is probably because people have not been entering their credentials into Just Go. So if you could go back and check your Just Go for all your credentials to make sure all your airworthiness ones are there. And if you believe you have a credential which is not shown in Just Go, your first point of call should be your RMA to ask them what's going on, to see what's going on, and if they have to, we can go to the ladies in the office to get it sorted out for you. So please maintain Just Go. We have to use the system. I know many of you don't like it. That's tough. It's the one that we're using. It's the one that we have to use, and we need to maintain it. Thank you. Next one, please, David. Okay, that's all I have, and I think the plan here is that the questions and comments will come up later. So if you have any other comment other than what this bloke is doing and why he has two thermometers on the go, we can talk about it later. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Well done for that. I'm going to now pass the meeting over to Aaron, and I'm just going to move it past into the presentation for that. And Aaron, I'll just bring you to be, where are you? I've lost you again.
Presenter.
Make a presenter. That might work better. Okay, so you're back in the group. Don't know why it drops you out. And I'll just make you also spotlight. There you go. And I'll just remove David's spotlight as well. Stop spotlighting. There you go. Cool. We've now got Aaron.
Okay, so hopefully people can hear me because I'm having difficulty with the microphone.
Oh,
next to
I'll share the content now as well, Aaron. There we go. And I'll make that into a presenter part.
Okay.
Right.
For those that don't know me, I'm Aaron Stroop, the chairman of the operations panel, and I work extremely closely with the EMO, Dave Bolter, and also Drew, data safety, and also the RMOs around the states. So that's how we kind of all operate. Just jumping before we get going with the Just Go stuff, it is really important that not only with the airworthiness side of it that we get correct information in there, but also with operations as well. When we have an incident, unfortunately happens from time to time, we do need to go to Just Go to get data rather than trying to get it from people that are grieving or very stressed over it. So please go and have a look at your Just Go credentials and see that everything that you think you've got. And if you don't have something you think you have, please contact your RMO and they can contact us and that out. So a couple of things have changed with the medical declarations that we have these days, and so just thought we'd run through that in a way that just so people understand what the new validity periods for these are. The pilots that are 70 years of age, less than 70 years of age, your validity period is basically forever until you turn 70. And then once you turn 70, you then have to revalidate your self-declaration every 2 years. So in the past where you've had to revalidate it every time you rejoin Gliding Australia, now you only have to do it once if you're under the age of 70. And if you are over the age of 70, then every 2 years. Now that only works if you don't become a instructor. Or so if you could become an instructor of either AEI or above, then you must get a GAus medical practitioner's certificate of fitness or a CASA based medical certificate. The self-declaration is not used for instructor ratings, and we've got a problem that we're trying to sort out at the moment where we still have a number of people that are instructing that are signing self-declarations. So please adhere to that. So when we look at the medical practitioner one for GAus certificate of fitness, they have new validity periods as well. So valid for a maximum of 2 years if the pilot is aged 40 and over, and valid for 5 years if you are over 40. So that's a bit of a difference from what we had in the past. Everyone was 2 years. Now we have 2 and 5 years. So if you are over the age of 40, then you must renew this every 2 years. And if you're under the age of 40, it's 5 years. Now that only works as long as you haven't had some sort of medical condition that requires you to have other things. So people that have had heart conditions and other problems associated with cancer and so forth may find that they have to validate that more often depending on what their specialist or GP says. Next slide, please.
Can I add something there, Aaron? Yes, that's right.
Okay.
The really key thing to remember in all this is that there is a fear of doing CASA medicals, but CASA medicals generally in recent times have been medicals where they want to help you to be able to fly again. And I'm a person who's had a number of different things happen to me in my life, and working with my DAMI, and working with CASA, I'm able to fly and continue flying, and quite successfully because I'm healthy. The conditions that I've had are okay and sorted out. So it's not something to be scared of to go down the CASA path. It does cost you money. There's no doubt about that. But if you're going to fly airplanes and do that, you're going to spend money. That's the simple part about what it is to do. The other thing we've added to the self-declaration is psychiatric disorders. And that's an important thing because that aligns us closer to the CASA Class 5 medical. The CASA Class 5 medical is a self-declaration, but it has significant limitations. We cannot accept that in Gliding Australia because our pilots fly above 10,000 feet. Our pilots may exceed bank angles of 60 degrees. So a Class 5 medical is not suitable for any glider pilot. Our self-declaration with the psychiatric disorders brings us in line and adds extra features to our glider pilots. Next slide.
Okay, so I'm going to get both Dave and Drew to jump in here a little bit as well. This information is really to try and help in the event of some sort of incident that happens with some of the newer technologies in gliders that we currently have. We have gliders now with ballistic recovery chutes installed in them, and we have lithium batteries and various types of fuels. One of the big issues is if there's an incident and the glider gets broken and the pilot is incapacitated, the first responders that arrive may not know that it's an electric glider, for example, and high voltage and batteries associated with that, or having fuel on board, or a ballistic chute which hasn't gone off but is sitting hairline trigger ready to go off. So what we've been planning on doing and working to do, and also working with Ostiv on this as well, to try and produce a first responders information on these systems. So if you're in a club that has any of these systems in gliders that operate out of your club, then it's a good thing to try and educate everybody what there is and how to deal with these particular things, because if the incident occurs close to or at the club, the first responders are generally going to be the club members that go running up to help the pilot, and not necessarily knowing that there's 400 volts of electricity sitting there that could be potentially lethal to the people that are trying to cut the pilot out of the thing. So with the first responder information on these systems, we're working with Queensland and New South Wales emergency services at this point in time to come together with like a data sheet that they would have on board their emergency service vehicles. So they have these already in fire engines and ambulances and so forth, that are dealing with electric cars and other petrol spills and volatile materials that they may have to be working with. But of course, these people have absolutely no idea that we could possibly have a 400 volt system in a glider, or lithium batteries on board, or any of those sort of things. So what we're doing is working closely with them at the moment to come up with a data sheet to supply them, so they've got information on some of our gliders. The other thing is Ostiv is working also on this as well with our help, because they can see this has been a bit of a problem. So we may have to have some sort of markings on gliders to indicate that they have one of these types of systems on board. The next thing, of course, then is the training of our first responders at club level, which will put together a training package to try and help clubs to be able to train the members with this type of stuff, and also to help train possibly some club members or CFIs along with RMOs with training on accident investigation. As we found with a recent accident, we got virtually no assistance from ADSB on this at all, and they just wiped their hands of it and walked away, and we ended up with a situation where we had high voltage aeroplane lying on the ground and responders that were confused and didn't know what to do. So that's just a few of the things that we're kind of working on at the moment. I'm sure Dave and Drew can maybe put a bit into there as well.
Can I go first, Drew? So one of the really good things I think is happening is Dave Villiers is working with the Queensland Fire and Emergency Rescue organisation, and I'm working with the New South Wales guys. They provide things that are actually ANCAP. So for vehicles, when a car goes off the road or something happens, a firey has an ANCAP plate in their truck, and that is what's sold by them. The ANCAP's the people who do the safety for vehicles and do that sort of stuff. Now, clearly, if we make something that's similar to that, in a similar format, and we produce that and put it on the Gliding Australia websites and send it out to every club, and every club takes this, because you may have a competition. You may have a glider that absolutely flies near your situation, and you may not have that glider. But if you have the ANCAP and you're on site, you can give that to the first responders, and that will be absolutely brilliant thing to happen for us all. The worst situation we can have is a poor farmer, an actual farmer, instead of one of the manufactured farms that we have today. And that poor farmer comes out with his son to help somebody. They will not know. I don't think we can stop that without having OSTIF at least helping us to put some things on the gliders that may alert a poor farmer and his son that not go near this because of these reasons. So that's why we're working with Murray Stimpson, who's our representative for OSTIF, and he's taken this job on board, and we're taking that back to the manufacturers. So that's really important stuff that we've got to go together with as well. Drew, your turn.
We're also starting a change proposal for upgrades to the templates for club emergency response plans. Regardless of what happens with OSTIF and others, there is a certain amount of data collection that can be done easily. We're putting together a very simple template that clubs can use, where they can actually document and have little diagrams about what hazards may exist in what aircraft. And that at least can be part of an emergency response package that's given to first responders. John Warrington has also given us some rather brilliant presentation material that's been used in Victoria previously. We might look at dusting that up a bit and using it as a shared resource.
I can't remember the exact number, but of new gliders that are coming into the country, but basically all of them are either electric or jets.
Yeah.
So we kind of are now in a situation where we need to move forward with this and start to do stuff. So, I mean, if anyone's got any experience in working with this sort of stuff, then please get in contact with either myself or Drew or Dave, or even either of the Dave, and help us along, because it's important we try and get this, because it looks like we're probably going to lead the world in this as the first ones to kind of go forward with this.
Yeah, and one other important part that we're working on now, which is, you know, across all our departments when we think about it, it's the when we do first of flight flights with gliders, the maintenance release leads us to do a V&E run and some sort of episodes around stalling and spinning and everything like that. The V&E run is not necessary anymore. David will definitely agree with this. It says you take it to a speed and you document the speed that it is, and that speed will be operationally around what you will probably do, or maybe a little bit further than that. But you don't have to take it to V&E. A V&E run, you want to do that at 6 a.m. in the morning with no wind around, no thermals, no nothing, and that. The other part of it is that the exploring the slow speed characteristics of a glider is probably important to do that. But in a lot of gliders, it actually says spinning in this glider or aerobatics is prohibited in this glider. Now, we can debate this for the nth degree if you want, but we're not test pilots. That's the simple answer. We are not test pilots. Some gliders will require more than this. Some gliders will require less than this. So we're working on those aspects of what we have to do. If your glider manual says, don't spin this glider, don't spin the glider.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate there, it's important that you stay within the flight envelope that's certified for that aircraft rather than stepping outside it. Just a couple of little updates as well before we move to Drew. Work is continuing on the GPC syllabus. That's almost finished, so hopefully we should get an update with that. I know a lot of people have submitted updates for that, and unfortunately it's been a couple of years since we have updated it, but that's not very far away. And also work is continuing on the MOSP to try and bring that into line with the current rules and regs that we're going with. That's kind of not on the highest priority because we've had other things that we've had to deal with first, but we are doing that slowly and getting there. So hopefully that'll come out soon. The new aerobatic manual has been published and is up on the web now and is available. The only thing I would say with it is there's maybe a couple of little things that aren't quite right with it, but in the next edition or updates with it, we'll correct that. So that should be there. So I know a number of clubs, what they're doing is that they're removing everybody's aerobatic rating and getting them to reapply. So they come under the new system for aerobatics. So anyone in your club that's interested in aerobatics or has been doing aerobatics, please make sure they download the new manual and read it, and then apply for the new endorsement, which will then go into Just Go. So I think that's pretty much it for me, unless you've got something, Dave.
No, sure enough. I'll pass the mantle to Drew. Are you able to share yours, Drew, or not?
Yes, stand by.
Okay.
Stand by. Can you see that?
Yes, we
Yes.
do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello again. Thanks for the time tonight. Look, I'm going to do a bit of a gallop across a number of subjects, but I'd emphasise the executive team, the EMA, all the guys. The integrated model where we're all responsible for safety has got a lot going for it, and I'm getting tremendous cooperation across the whole organisation. It's really good. So what's going on? A few weeks ago, we had to do presentations at the face-to-face meeting of the board and the board and executive, and we had to highlight a few things that are going on. Our current priorities are aligned with ICAO and CASA safety programs. No surprise here. We're still dealing with issues of loss of control and handling issues. aircraft near collisions, separation issues, mid-air collisions, excursions and incursions on runways, airworthiness occurrences, and hard landings. They're the things that are causing people to come to brief, and the data is supporting that. Now, here we are. We've got our brand new CEO, Mariella Pocklington, in the room, and she was taking these briefings in, and we had to just let her know what our history is. And what I did present was fairly dramatic, because we had a look at our accident statistics, not just over the last 5-10 years, where we can get sort of short-term sense of security, but we looked back as far as our records could take us. Now, there's a bit of a hole in our records in the mid-90s through to the early 2000s. I'm not sure how much of that is real. We lost a lot of records in the bushfire that took out Kevin Olahead's place, and CASA were handing over to ATSB and all sorts of other stuff. So I'm not sure how accurate it is. The blue bars are in the number of fatal accidents. The red bars are the total fatalities. And what we were showing here was most definitely that the stall spin accidents have been a large feature throughout history. And it got a bit worse than that. If you look at the purple diamonds, we've had mid-air collisions. Some of them have taken out a very large number of people in single incidents. Quite scary. Token wall accidents, Tasmania, accidents involving third-party aircraft. So that was quite confronting, and we noticed that they're starting to crop up again as well. We looked at tow plane and power plane accidents. They're the yellow diamonds, and they've come up quite a lot. And so self-launching glider, touring motor glider accidents. The whole message there was we can't afford to be complacent. I am going to talk to this in more detail when we come to our event in October, where we're looking at human factors and stuff. But it's not all technological. It's not all about lookout. It's not all about winch launching or anything else. But there are some recurring patterns that we need to be looking at. So we'll explore those later. So the actions arising from that discussion with the board and the exec were that we need to focus better on avoiding the collisions, deconfliction, better situational awareness. We need a closer look at what the tow plane operations and self-launching gliders are doing. Connectors, underpinning human factors, culture, organisational, countering complacency. Those are massive priorities that we have to address in the future. So, part of the initiative of getting things better is to try and have more informed discussions about human factors. Now, it's very easy for us to drop into a notion of, this accident happened, pilot error. Oh my goodness. There are so many things that can occur where the human factors are not just the pilot, but actually the organisation that let the pilot do what they were doing. Or it might have been human factors in the maintenance, or the organisational culture on that airfield. We've been participating in a lot of high-level aviation conversations about safety, and human factors just keep coming up. And Doug Flockhart and others agreed the priority of this. He insisted that it needed to have a dual focus, not just on the human factors and safety, but also a club's roundtable dialogue. So that is now, as foreshadowed in Launch Points and in the Gliding Australia magazine and in a few emails around the place. The event is happening. It will be a hybrid for the first time. The idea being we want it to be accessible to all members, not just presidents, not just instructors, not just senior folks, but any pilot, any member who wants to be part of this, they can. We're looking at hybrid being face-to-face in Melbourne plus online webinar feed. That requires some very large dollars to provide those audio-visual services and to have a reliable connection and streaming and recording available across the whole nation. But I do ask of you, please support this event and attend. I'm waiting on Sarah to send out the program and emails to members. I was hoping it would be today, but certainly this week they'll be out. And you'll be able to log in via Just Go and subscribe. The program's pretty good. Human factors safety, technology, systems, occurrence trends, strategies, safety development, a clubs round table looking at how do we become architects of change as opposed to being reactive. How can we get better collaborative strategies, succession, volunteer support and recognition, and also insights from other sports. It won't just be Gliding Australia people. CASA are going to be there. Airlines, I'm hoping Andrew Learmonth from Qantas Link's going to be there. And folks from other sporting organisations. And yes, there is a charge involved because the logistics of this are extremely expensive, but most of it is about actually the face-to-face is the dinner charge. And there are some admin overheads associated with managing the contract. It's over $10,000 to stream this across the country and to have the live interaction recording services and sophisticated audio visual. So this is an experiment. We want it to work. So please subscribe. The program's good. Jeff Brown, Mariella Pocklington, the new CEO, is going to be there. Phil Dodd, hopefully my successor from RFD SWA. Chris Thorpe, Bill Bartlett, Drew McKinnie, you know him. Sydney Decker is going to be talking with us at the end of the day before we go to drinks and dinner. James Nugent, some folks from Football Victoria, and some workshops to help us actually work through the club collaboration agenda. So it's a good program, and I hope you can support it. Human factors. I was looking at Unit 24 of the GPC, and it was developed with the best of intent as a training package. There's a pilot guide and a trainer's guide. What it does do pretty well is it says, yeah, we need pilots to be safe to take themselves up in the sky, to have a reasonable foundation knowledge about what makes them safe to fly, medical fitness, hazardous attitudes, the right decision-making, human limitations, the airmanship model, the currency barometer. You've all seen this. That unit contains a lot of older references, but what we're seeing is that it doesn't cover some of the reasons why biases creep in, why we make dumb decisions, or why groups of people allow things to happen and live with it, and then it bites them. It doesn't discuss some of the issues associated with distraction and complacency, collective safety issues, some self-awareness issues, and it needs to be updated for modern references. I'm here saying that we need to revisit the human factors module. I think possibly we might keep the basic Unit 24 similar to what it is, and we might need to look at an advanced human factors module for people when they're getting post-solo and into the cross-country realms of flying. But I would like some expert support, and I'm asking for volunteers to let me know if you want to assist me with a review of those modules and potentially some advanced human factors aspects that might be an advanced training module. We are also seeing that organisational human factors are underpinning quite a few accidents and incidents that we've had. And then I was looking around and I found this document, Ops 10, Human Factors in Gliding, issue number 3, dated 2022. But it wasn't in the safety docs, it wasn't in the ops manuals, in operations docs. it is actually hidden in the GPC resources under the GPC training. And I suspect that this volume is completely unused. It's got some great content. It definitely needs updating, and it needs better visuals and supporting presentations. The existing PowerPoint presentations for human factors, they need a bit of a rejig. It includes an exam Q&A at the end. I'm not sure if that's the right thing for that manual, but let's just say I think this is a project that needs to be brought to the fore and used more widely as a resource within clubs, within training. It could be a valuable resource for helping people in airworthiness as well. Certainly in competitions and high performance soaring and all those issues. There's a mountain of fabulous information in that can help pilots stay out of trouble. So again, I'm asking for expressions of interest. If people want to give us a hand to have a look at that and give it a bit of a spruce up, that'd be fabulous. That's it.
Thank you, Drew. Well done from that one. I'll let you stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. There it is. Got
it. All good. I'll just remove you from being, as David Jansen just told me before, stop spotlighting. Okay, done. We're all back to equals. I'm going to spotlight Mike. And Mike, you're front and center.
G'day.
I'm going to share the document with everybody. Just let me do that. And it starts with the junior squad for Lake Keeper 2029 for you. Okay?
Okay, so from a sports perspective, we're focused on a few things. One is the junior squad and preparing a squad and then a team to participate in the junior competitions Lake Keeper 2029. Another thing that we are focused on is trying to rebuild the nationals, get greater participation, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that the NCC is doing around that. And there's a few other bits and pieces that we need to talk about as well. So try and move along quite quickly. In terms of the junior squad, obviously there's a key opportunity to leverage the World Gliding Champs that are going to be held in Lake Keeper in early 2029. As part of that, we need to develop a cohort that will then compete to be on a squad and then form the team. To be eligible, pilots must be born after 31st of December 2002. That counts most people on this call out. But you hopefully all know people in your clubs that are potential candidates and would encourage them and support them to be candidates to then get involved in this. There is a IGC rule change which is underway, which would mean that 31st of December 2002 applies for that comp. There is a risk that rule change won't get approved, and then you'd need to be the following year. So we're trying to work that through. Mandy's pushing that through the IGC. For all of our planning purposes, we're working on you must be born after the 31st of December 2002 to be eligible for that team. We're expecting that rule change to go through either later this year or early next year. And there's a lot of support within the IGC for that rule change. So work on that basis. In addition, we're hoping that candidates are going to be solo and single seaters and progressing towards having their GPC by the end of the 25-26 season coming up. The reason for that, obviously, is there's then a squad process and a final selection process tied to the subsequent Joey glides. There is funding which has been allocated by the board and available to the SDP, or the Soaring Development Panel, working through each of the regional soaring development managers to support juniors that have an ambition and have expressed a commitment to be selected for that team. That funding is to assist with their participation in cross-country coaching and potentially early competitions so that we can develop them, get them into the competitions and get them through to the point where they can then be vying to be on the squad and ultimately the team. The events that will be considered for funding are participation in state and national championships, state coaching events, regattas, etc., and any specific coaching approved by the RSDM. Focus this season is really on supporting the coaching program at Joey Glide. So for those of you that don't know, there's a Joey Glide coaching program that runs alongside the competition, where there's an ability for people that are not quite ready for the competition to come along and be supported with coaches. And we're really encouraging people to get involved in that coaching program and also to participate in Joey Glide, if at all possible, in Benalla in January of 2026. Joey Glide is still the key event where the juniors from across the country come together, gives us an ability as coaches and soaring development managers to be involved and see people and support them and identify talent to go into squad and then the team. So it's really important, if you're keen to be involved or you know people that are keen or potentially eligible, get them along to Joey Glide, get them along there and be involved. Funding for the coaching is provided on a matching basis, with pilots funding half the cost themselves. Again, we want to see pilots that are prepared to commit, can put some money into this and not go for a free ride. If people are prepared to commit and commit both themselves, their time and some money, then the SDP can match those costs to assist with people coming and getting involved. So if you're keen to be involved, you know people that potentially are keen to be involved, then please contact your regional soaring development manager or the Australian Junior Gliding Club, get them along to Joey Glide in January, and let's see if we can get a really strong team and squad initially, and then out of that squad, the team will be selected based on the results at Joey Glide competition. So this is really on everybody. Let's get this all going, and let's have a real shot at getting a world champion at Lake Keepit in 2029. So next slide. As part of really trying to get the nationals reinvigorated and get a greater turnout, there's a number of things that have been done by the NCC led by Lumpy Patterson. One of them is implementing distance handicap tasking. So distance handicap tasking is a racing task where the task length is adjusted for each competitor's handicap based on their glider handicap. This is achieved by magic software that Nick Gilbert has developed, where it basically takes the base task and then based on your handicap will vary some of the turn points to reduce the distance, so that effectively everybody would be on task for the same duration, and it avoids the bunnies being sent out in their lower handicap gliders and then getting them run down by the JS3s, etc., and getting wrapped up and beaten during, just because they have to get out there early to get around a task. It's trying to compensate for the fact that a handicap doesn't really address it when everybody has to fly the same task and then you're handicapped for speed. In this case, everybody's handicapped by distance and everybody potentially is out there for about the same duration. Start finishing control points are the same for all competitors for safety reasons, so that everybody is orientated the same direction on their start leg and their finish leg, and through any control points being routed onto various runways for finishing. But the turn points in the middle will vary, and everybody gets their own individual task, which they load into their glider, their various gadgets, and then they fly that task. And if you're in a slower performance glider, you basically turn inside the high performance gliders. The NCC rules, the national rules, have been updated for DHT tasking, and they have, I think, been published. The latest NCC rules will be used for Vic State, New South Wales State and Leeton Nationals, and DHT tasking is planned to be used in all 3 of those competitions. And the rules and the scoring, Neil Campbell has been working on the scoring. So I believe the scoring scripts and the rules are all aligned. So we're hoping that we can use all of this season. We believe this is being monitored across the world. It's the first time that distance handicap tasking has really been implemented in ANGA. There's provision for it within the IGC rules, but nobody's figured out how to do it properly so far. So we're going to be the guinea pigs on this, but I think it's worth putting the effort in and using this to give the opportunity for lower performance gliders to really turn up and compete on an equal basis with the higher performance gliders. And we've seen the results of this. Leeton Nationals is oversubscribed, or was oversubscribed due to tug capacity. I believe that now we've accommodated all of the gliders and pilots that want to come. But we're going to have a big Nationals at Leeton, probably the biggest we've had for a long time. So hopefully that is a good sign that we can turn this around. So that's all I wanted to talk to in terms of DHT. If we move on to the next slide, just a reminder from a coaching and GPC sporting development perspective, there are a lot of great materials that support cross-country training that are referenced off the website via the location identified there. It includes briefing packs on all of the theory for cross-country flying with pilot and trainer guides that are available to all members. Anecdotally, we're seeing that people are getting through the training, but they're not using these materials, and therefore there's some inconsistency in results, etc. And also people are missing the opportunity to leverage the materials that are actually out there and being used. So please, if you're a coach or an instructor, then really, can you please use these trainer guides and briefing packs? And if you're a student pilot and you're learning, then please, you can use the pilot guides, you can use the briefing packs, you can use the trainer guides if you want to see what the trainers are supposed to be teaching you. And you can ask questions of coaches and instructors. It's all there, it's all on the website, it's all available to everybody. So please use it. If you think there are issues in those documents, then please raise a document change request via the link on the GPC page. You just scroll down a page and there's a link there, and you can, if you've got any feedback, you want any updates made to the materials, then you can put them in there and we'll action those as quickly as we can. So the final 2 things to talk about, just want to touch on. One is there's a big audit of all of the trophies and who's won all of the trophies over many years that's been completed. There are a couple of requests from the team that's doing that audit. One is we're particularly interested in finding out who's won the FAI Nationals Novice trophies. And if anybody's got that and they can take a photo of it and send it in, we would appreciate that, because we're actually after the detail of who's won those trophies. And the other one is the 2nd place club and 2-seater Commonwealth Bank trophies. People are after that. The team has basically managed to find most of the rest of the trophies and who's won things over many years, and has put that audit together, which is kind of part of our historical record as a gliding community. And then the other thing, just finally, we've got an upcoming season coming. We're going to be running competitions. And in the theme that Drew has raised, and Aaron, and this focus on safety, there is a very good competition safety briefing pack, which was done in January 2018. And I've been around the comp scene for a long time, and it's in a lot of references, and people are asked to read it, and nobody does. Can you please, if you're going to a comp and you've got, one evening and you're sitting down with your favorite beverage, have a read through it before you go to your next comp because keeping this stuff at the front of your mind before you turn up is really important. And I've been looking at that, and I think it's due a refresh. So again, if people are prepared to put their hands up and give us a hand to refresh that and make it a bit more modern, then I think it's probably worth doing. But again, just if you go into a comp, have a read of it, bring those key safety messages back to the forefront of your mind before you turn up and go flying. And that's me done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate everybody who's presented tonight. We've had Mike, Drew, Aaron, and David. And I want to say something about, in gliding, we kind of think about these different departments and stuff like that. So, when I got this job in Gliding Australia, I said, well, I'm going to go back and do all my airworthiness credentials. So I'm working my way through all that stuff. I've done Form 2s. I've done it back 20 years ago. All that sort of stuff that we did. I've learned so much through doing the training courses and doing that. I'm a coach. I've gone through the coach training and do that as well. I'm also a level 3 instructor. So I encourage you all not to think about I'm this, I'm that, whatever I am. We're all part of gliding. That's what makes us special. We've got time now for Q&A. I've been looking through the chat and the Q&A, and there's no questions that I've seen. I've got a few comments back there as well, but if there's any questions that people have got, this is your opportunity now to ask those questions, and we can put them to our group that we've got online tonight.
And there's no stupid questions. Every question's good.
There's no stupid questions. I do like the way that Mike Durrant's screen is actually frozen. But that's because of internet connectivity that goes on. But Mike, your audio came through perfectly through all of that. If there's no questions that I've got now, I will start to bring the meeting to an end. Oh, we do. Yes. So RMO for New South Wales, David McElroy, said he's pleased to see the psychiatric disorder change to the medical self-declaration. Have we updated the form? Yes, we have. And I do want to thank Chris Thorpe for helping me with changing the forms that we've got online. The bandwidth we have inside Gliding Australia post part 149, and I'm talking we're 1.5 years past this, is it's limited. That's the best way to describe it. So any support that we can all get to help all of us who work for you in Gliding Australia is really well accepted. Yes, David, we've changed the forms, and that's part of something you've been involved in, which is called the change management process, and we got through that. There's a question there from David Jansen about Class A airspace, if I'm right. It might have been withdrawn, but David's, yes. So he's will there be an opportunity for a dedicated squawk on the transponders for gliders like 1202? Absolutely. This has got big support going through. The avenue for our airspace access is clearly transponders. Controlled airspace in Australia is going to be about transponders to be used. Having said that, it's not in all controlled airspace. We still have exemptions in Class E, We have we don't have to use transponders in Class D, where my club, Southern Cross in Camden, lives in a Class D air space, probably the only one in Australia. And we will, after a regathering that we're doing now, go back to air services to get access to Class A correctly. So that hopefully answers your question, David.
I'd like to emphasise we're being really busy on representing gliding interests with Air Services Australia, Office of Airspace Regulation, the CASA folks, the local industry folks. It's affecting many clubs. Freedom to fly is important. And yes, better equipment is part of the solution, but we're fighting back against simplistic thinking, two-dimensional thinking about lines on maps, and trying to get better solutions that actually allow for segregation where necessary and integration in a more sane fashion. The more that clubs are brought into that dialogue, the better.
Yeah,
the more
absolutely.
that clubs are looking at their own operations, procedures, alignment with other airspace users is a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's, yeah. I want to say from the airworthiness point of view, one of the things that we've been working on before Doug left was to introduce a apprenticeship scheme for lamies to come through a gliding pathway in New South Wales so that they can get experience in different types of like FRP and Kevlar, and also the propulsion units that we're talking about, the electric propulsion units that are going through. And at Camden Airport, they're looking at putting in a reach out sort of TAFE location for apprentice lamies to be able to work there, located near Sydney. The Sydney's, I'm sorry to say, it's the biggest bloody population in Australia. So it's a good opportunity for us all. And with what we've provided at Camden Airport with our own club that I belong to, Southern Cross, we've provided a maintenance facility that TAFE are looking at and saying, well, we can do that. And we can put apprentices through gliding into general aviation. How incredible is that? I've got some other questions here. Yes, David, absolutely. All the rest of those frequencies that we talked about, we've talked about that before. 1225, 1227, 1229 transponder codes. They are very, very important codes, and we should have those unique to gliding, and then every other traffic knows about that. 100% I'm there. I'm fighting for it every day, mate. Yep, and we're trying to get all the charts updated and making sure that we're there. We've got a project going on with a number of people across the country that are working on how we are best represented in charts, AIPs, SUPs, whatever channel you want to talk about, URSAs, whatever else, for airspace across Australia. This week I was with Jenny Thompson, a meeting for Toowoomba, Darling Downs, and that was a good meeting, and that was one step forward towards getting our gliding facilities, which are actually on an IFR route, by the way, into Toowoomba, which is disastrous, but anyway, we'll work through that to fix some of these things that we got going on. In New South Wales, I'm very cognizant of all of these things. We've got Piper's Airfield at Bathurst, we've got Mangrove Mountain at Central Mangrove, we've got Southern Tablelands down near Goulburn. All of these places are hidden and they're not known. And so we're working on projects in the background here that you guys don't see every day that are making this happen. And then we go to Western Sydney airspace. I mean, that takes a lot. I've spent personally outside this job 6 years working on that. 6 years. And we still have gliding at Camden. We're working on the Hunter Valley with the towers on the eastern side of the runway there, where they're putting a electrical tower system down through there for an artery for electricity to Australia. But that artery is going to affect our gliding operations. So we're working on that as well. There's a lot of work that happens. and sorry that we don't tell you about it every day, but we are fighting for your airspace. We're fighting for your airfields every day.
There's a question there, Dave, about if you're 69 and a half with a new GAus medical practitioner certificate, when is the next one due, at 72 or 2 years after the medical? I would say 72.
Yeah, the word says 70, right? Yeah. Everybody wants to try and game the system, like at the end of the day, just try not to. It makes it easier. Okay, I've looked through the questions. Everybody else has as well. Hopefully we're finished. We're at 9:30, which is our time to finish. Fantastic job, guys. Appreciate everybody being here. We've still got like 58 people on board, so that's really great. Any last comments from our executive?
No, just thank you to everyone that's given up their evening to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, and please participate in mid-November.
Talk to you then.